Hello and welcome to another one of those Tinto Talks where we get to know all about the features coming in this game that we're also very excited about, Europa Universalis 5. Today we're going to be having a look at the Inti and folk religions, and I'm going to bring you in with this image rather than using the image at the top of the screen as, we're not playing Minecraft now, we're going to be playing EU5. This was pointed out by one of the comments, though, by the way, and we have this image to compensate, which, you know what? Kind of like this. I might use this for something. Maybe it will even be the thumbnail. Although, maybe not, because we also have one other image that I want to show you, which is not this one or this one. It's this one right here. We have the full religion map of the entire world. You can zoom in as well a little bit, not a whole lot actually, but yeah, it's looking pretty decent, pretty large, pretty nice, and filled in, and I think there's a lot to like here. Whether this is the final product and we're getting no changes or not, I don't know. I still think there are probably spaces for improvements. I mean, there's always going to be. But yeah, no, this is looking really nice. It's looking really nice. But anyway, let us get into the Tinto Talks, which is here. Hello and welcome to another Tinto Talks, the happy Wednesdays where we talk about Europa Universalis 5. Today, we'll talk about the Inti and folk religions. Start without further ado. Inti, it's quite a unique religion that stands out in the Peruvian region. And before we go further, we're going to point out that Peru is a bit of an anachronistic term that maybe should not be being used, and the devs happen to agree with this. Gertanon here pointing out that Peru is a colonial term, didn't exist, and so it should be the Andean folk religion. So Andean was the original name of the religion group, etc., and that is being changed. So all of the places where we're seeing Peruvian, we're going to in fact see Andean instead, which I think obviously is a good change. If it's more historical, then that is just better. So here's our religion map for the region. Lots of Inti, obviously. Some other folk religions like Pava here, Chincha, Yage. I feel like Yage was in EU4 as well. It just rings a bell. I don't really play in this region, and if I do play in this region, it's more I'm conquering this region or colonizing this region, so I don't really interact too much with the religion over here. But I feel like this is something I remember. But you know, let me know if I'm just huffing glue or something on that one. I don't know. Anyway, let's have a look at the religion modifiers that we get for Inti. We can use slaves. Our armies reinforce a bit cheaper. Our armies move a bit faster. This is a very underrated modifier. Fantastic modifier. Big fan of it. Cultural tradition plus 5% as well, and then you can have extra female spouses. And here we have a comment confirming, yes, it is 4 female consorts total or 1 male consort total, and Islam has something similar. Inti also has the Doom mechanic, and as for Doom, they do not have the Doom mechanic. It's actually just called Yanantin, which I'm sure we will learn about in a moment. But yeah, they do not have Doom, despite what the Tinto Talk is saying. So, there are about 3.5 million Inti pups in the world, relatively spread out. No one's got a plurality. Inti, together with they're the main gods that guide and protect the people of the Andes. As you see, Inti is part of the Peruvian folk religions group. Again, this is going to be changed. We'll explain how that works further down. So, panel for the religion, we see we can add religious aspects. We get some religious actions celebrating rituals, pilgrimages, and hosting ceremonies. The most important mechanic of the Inti religion is the Yanantin, which is a value that can go from minus 100 to positive 100. You mostly get penalties if you go above or below 0. It gives most modifiers when it's exactly and perfectly balanced at 0. So it's a balance mechanic. I'm not a massive fan of balance mechanics. It depends on how they're gained and how they're lost. If either way is gained or lost via conquest, I'm generally not a massive fan of that. But we'll see how it goes. It represents the balance between two complementary but opposing entities. Following the mindset of the Andean cultures, harmony can only be achieved when a being, a man, darkness, the sun, finds its complement and joins it, a woman, the light, the moon. So, at 0, you get extra control and prestige. If we have positive Yanantin, we get negative legitimacy and positive rebel growth. And then below 0, we get estate satisfaction, equilibrium reduction. The peasants like it, though, to be fair. You also lose some prestige and pops joining rebel thresholds minus 10%, which is a good modifier. Depending on the gods you worship, from 7 available, you get positive or negative Yanantin. So the Wiraquecha, the Inti Ilapa all give positive. The Mamaquila, the Pachamama, the Mamaquacha, and the Urpihuacachak give negatives, or positives. So you want to have this all in balance. At the moment, he's at plus 0.5, so he wants to get himself maybe the Ilapa god to get that in balance then. Base value is plus 0.5, so essentially that's... if you have everything turned on, you're gaining plus 1 per month, which is obviously not that great for you. Apart from that, the worship of each of the gods gives passive modifiers to the country. So we've got stability investment cost, population growth, character life expectancy, we've got army morale. Okay, Ilapa's going on every single game. And for the other direction, the positives, we got less separatism, monthly prosperity, that one's always going on. There's naval morale, and there is diplomatic capacity. I feel like this would be relatively easy to balance. Essentially, I would always want Inti and Ilapa. Honestly, I'd probably want all 3 of them. Whereas I can probably do without naval morale. I can probably do without it. I would take the prosperity, and I would... it's either the separatism or the diplomatic capacity that you'd be essentially choosing between, and it is situational. If I am in a situation where I need more diplomatic capacity, I go with that. Otherwise, separatism. It's that simple. Am I going a diplomacy and vassalship route, then the diplo capacity would serve me better. Although 5% seems very, very small. Here we're using one of the building blocks that we talked about before, the religious aspect, in a way that promotes the worship of a certain god, which has the consequence of increasing their effects, therefore being one of the ways of balancing the Yanantin of the country. So this is essentially, select which religious aspect to add. I feel like you could... it doesn't say how many total you're allowed to accept, does it? I don't see that anywhere. So maybe you're able to select all of them if you so desire. You can only promote the worship of one god at a time and changing its cost stability. Oh, okay. I guess we learned. I guess we learned. Ooh, then that makes things a little bit... I'm at low stability. I choose the stability one. I'm at peace. I choose population growth or prosperity, depending on whether I'm above or below my Yanantin. I'm going to war. I need the morale, etc. That seems reasonable. Although changing it is 50. There is no... Okay, I'm just choosing the morale and leaving it. Goddamn. Okay. There's got to be a way of changing it without the stab cost, though. It's gotta be. There's absolutely gotta be. Another way of balancing the Yanantin of your country is by performing any of the available actions. So, celebrating rituals, hosting ceremonies, etc. You can choose a god to favor, lose some Yanantin, cost some prestige, go on a pilgrimage, cost some money, go to a holy site, spend some money, lose Yanantin, host a ceremony, we get population growth. Okay, we just do that then. There are 13 different festivities with different modifiers which you can get when you host a ceremony depending on the time of the year. Very cool. Alright, on to the folk religions then. Very large sections of the world are covered by the folk religions. a new denomination of what formerly in EU4 were animist, pagan, or totemist religions, and we've been able to set up thanks to the feedback in the Tinto map series. Very cool. Due to the huge amount of folk religions, they're focusing on the gods and religious aspects as building blocks for the folk religions. We're aiming to have some baseline gods based on spirits, which are based on natural forces, wind, water, fire, sun, etc. And then we have some of the main gods for the folk religion families. So, as in this example, the country of Benin, which worships the Isizi religions, has a number of deities to worship upon. Okay. They have these ones, and I assume this is again going to be a case of I can only choose one. Probably. So depending on which religion, these guys are Isizi. We've got here Bantu would be another one. Bori, just all of them essentially. I doubt there's going to be localized god names for absolutely all of them completely accurately, but probably enough, and this is something that is very easy to add as the game goes on. So Oloran, Olokan, Obatala, and Ori for Benin, which I think would probably be a relatively popular country. It was in EU4 at least. Population growth in there, prosperity, stability, investment cost, etc. But that is all for the folk religions. That's actually very little being written there, but we have some comments to go through as well, so let's go take a look at some of those. I'm curious, do folk religions see other folk religions as heretics or heathens, or does it not really matter to them? So, they use base mechanics, which means that different religions in the same religious group are considered heretics, and that different religious groups are considered heathens. You can see it set up the religious groups differently, as they're scriptable and thus moddable. So for instance, if you want to mod with more nuanced African folk religions, you can script it completely differently from the base game. As you can also script the different opinions that countries of different religions have among each other. So you might consider the individual pops of a certain religion as heathens, but then instead of a positive opinion on countries of that religion. Okay. So essentially they're not messing with it at this point, but modders can go ham with it, is kind of what I'm seeing here. Okay. And then for the ICZ, they just see everyone as neutral, except Sunni, which they see as heathen. Fair enough. Are there any plans for some of the folk religions to receive their own icons? Maybe have different icons for folk religions of each region. So they have 254 different folk religions, which is a colossal number, which mostly have an impact on the pop-related systems and mechanics. They prioritize this over the pure flavor of having so many different pantheons, etc., because they think it's more relevant for gameplay purposes. I would have to agree with that for the most part. As much as it is maybe awkward to say, these countries were not the most popular to play in EU4, and that's not due to a lack of care or a lack of depth or a lack of anything, really. They just weren't as popular. I don't see that changing, and when you consider which countries are, I don't want to say historically relevant, because, everyone's relevant, but the relevance of England to the period between 1337 and 1837 is a different order of magnitude to, for example, Benin. As well, a lot of these countries have their religions changed. These religions, for the most part, die out. Is it fine to say it's less important to get these absolutely, mechanically deep as, the European or Asian religions? I don't think it is as important. And I would rather the devs spend more of their effort and time and focus on the things that more people are going to be playing. And this is something that can be, expanded upon in the future with DLC, with updates. So I'm not saying it's forever going to be that way, but I do agree it is more relevant for gameplay purposes to have... I mean, this is even already a step up from EU4's like 4 religions. Totemist, Animist, the other ones I forget. There you go. The other ones I forget. It's an awkward thing to say. It's like, oh yes, your religion just it doesn't matter as much. But for gameplay purposes, I do think that is accurate. It just is what it is. But anyway, moving on. Where are the religious aspects for folk religions? Are they the same as for the Inti religions? So he's mixing up aspects with actions. They have aspects, they do not have actions. Giving me the idea that we may port some of the actions to be available for the folk religions as well, because celebrating religious festivals is a very widespread activity. So even from the comments, these religions are gonna get updates. You know, they're gonna get religious actions to do, which is, you know, an upgrade. Which is fair enough. Do the different folk religions give different bonuses, or is it the same for all, but the gods are named different? Based on comparing Inti and Icezi, it's the latter, without the Enantin, which is unique to the Incans. So they're similar as of now, and they have 18 different folk religions, religious groups, as they want to mark them as separate, based on common beliefs. But if you think that Andean folk religions need this differentiation from Brazilian folk religions, it's something they can look for towards polishing, because it shouldn't take much time, just some thought. Fair enough. Again, if things the community can say, look, we really think that this deserves a bit more attention, and if there are enough people that say this deserves more attention, it will get more attention. So yeah. And finally, this comment, which is relatively interesting. Lord Thanatos here, saying that he doesn't really get the fixation with adding religious currencies. It might have been unique, interesting gameplay if it wasn't something every religion seemed to have their flavor of, with very minor impact. It seems the current Paradox design philosophy for religions is, what's the religion name, and what can we use for its currency mechanic? Piety, Karma, Doom, Enantin, Mysticism, Spiritualism, etc. He's not entirely wrong on that fact. I don't feel like these currencies add anything really. They're also abstract. I don't think it's unfair to call them mana. Polynesian faiths, they actually use the word mana. Okay. Yeah, this is a decent point because a lot of the religions are using religious currency system. That is a fair point to make. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can, it's on screen if you want to. But the response here, it's fair to have the opinion, and we've been presenting these religion-related Tinto talks in the last couple of months to get community and truly improve them as much as possible based on the feedback. That said, I think the mana currency debate is not entirely productive. We've already moving away in EU5 from the most important mana-based mechanic in EU4, Monarch Points, and tying a lot of the systems and mechanics into a more simulationist approach. However, we will still need to work with other currencies, such as prestige, stability, etc. So in the case of religions, please consider them as tools, not as means. That being said, I'll repeat again what we try to improve the mechanics that we've shown as much as possible based on the community feedback, because that's the main point of the Tinto Talk series, presenting different EU5 content for 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 days of the week. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it does feel a little defensive. It does feel a little defensive. And I mean, that's I don't think Lord Thanatos is entirely wrong, right? A lot of the religions are having their currency, religious currency mechanic. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. Though I would again say that having building blocks that can then be diversified is not really a bad thing. I can see in the future, I can't, but I imagine in the future, if we have the I don't know, the Buddhism update where Buddhism gets a bunch of new mechanics and such, and maybe it doesn't have a karma slider, karma currency. These things can change over time, and if the game comes out and all of these religions feel a bit too samey because they all share this currency building block, things will change. But for release, I do honestly think it is reasonable to have it be this way. But anyway, that is the last comment. This is the one I wanted to leave off on because It's the most meatiest of the comments and responses, and I definitely would like to see people's thoughts on this. What are you? Which side of the coin do you land on? Not sure yet what we're gonna get next week. Except we get the Tinto flavor on Friday for the Inca, which is I'm looking forward to it, of course. But yeah, let me know what you think about the rest of the things. I'm going to leave you with this image of a fire pit because it's lovely and I like it. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you later. And if you haven't already, go buy Imperator Rome because it's a great game. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.